Hey. So this is one of 3 videos that were supposed to come out weeks ago, but 2025 hasn't really been my year. I know some of y'all are going, dang, Canders, what happened this time? I got COVID. Hey, friendles, I'm Kendall, and I like dolls with a wider range of motion. Which is exactly what we're doing today. Let's get started. This lovely Barbie doll is our model for today. I can't for the life of me remember what line or set she's from, but her bag says she's from 1999. So between us, I'm the eldest. Her knees already have a simple single hinge joint, which does like a fifth of my job for me. The plan is to add double hinge joints at the elbows, a twistable single hinge at the wrist, extra waist flexibility, and a larger range of motion in the shoulders. To do that, we need the actual joints. Which brings us into Rhino 3D. Making these joints is easy, it's just 2 circles connected with a curved line. I delete the inner curves, connect everything together, and extrude the shape by a few millimeters. How many? I don't remember. This footage is a few months old. Those smaller circles in the center become booleans for pinholes. Now we've got a simple double hinge elbow joint. For the single hinge wrist joint, I just make a circle with the smaller one inside, and then I extrude it. To make the hinge post, I use 2 circles and loft those into shape. The loft function gives me a cylinder that's narrow on one end. I extend that smaller circle to make a long post for the hinge hole, and I add a rectangle to boolean a slit, making it easier to insert into the hand later. Now that we've got all the pieces, it's time for printing. These will be printed in PLA filament, making them lightweight, flexible, and easy to squeeze into place. Since they're so small, printing also didn't take long. The first run is trash. Yeah, that happens sometimes. The second batch came out very clean, so I just had to cut off the supports. Off screen. After that, I drilled the hinge holes open and sanded everything smooth. Then came a layer of wood filler. Since the filler is already a nice skin tone, all it really needed after that was one more round of sanding. Before using the joints, I had to prep the doll, which means slicing her waist in half and removing her arms completely. I marked the cut lines and made sure a wooden ball would fit as the new waist joint. Then I grabbed my nicest slicey knife and got to slicing. Going back and forth steadily leaves the cleanest cut. To remove the arms, I filled a cup with boiling water, sealed the doll in a plastic bag, and dunked her in for a bath in the jacuzzi. Once the vinyl softened, parts like the head and arms should, in theory, come off easily. But oh my Lanta, these arms were stubborn. This doll's from 1999, so she was definitely built to last. I eventually got them off. Not unscathed, but I got them off, and then I had to remove the inner joint parts that are still stuck in the torso, which was such a pain in the arse that I ended up needing 3 hands for this. I eventually got the shoulder pieces out, leaving a nice and open channel between both arm sockets. Next came the arm surgery. I only did one arm at first. You'll see why in a second. I marked the middle of the elbow and gave it a clean cut, and I also used rasps to smooth out the vinyl. Then I cut a square from the elbow's edge. The square did not want to leave, so I had to wiggle it out with some pliers. And vinyl is also very squishy and it flakes when you sand it, so fun times. Using a Dremel with a fine bit, I clean the opening with the vinyl flakes, making their appearance as expected. I originally wanted to leave the back of the arms intact so that it wouldn't bend backwards, but then I eventually just said screw it and drilled straight through. I make sure that the elbow hinge fits, and then I move on to the upper arm with a better idea of how I'm going to do this. It's the same slit cutting, the same sanding, and once the fit was good, I drilled wire holes through the elbow to hold the joint in place, and boom! Functional elbow. Now for the wrist. I cut the wrist straight across to separate the hand, and I drilled a hole in the arm the same diameter as the hinge. Even if you over-drill the vinyl, it'll still be tight enough to grip whatever you insert into it. I then did the same slit and sand routine on the hand. Once the hinge fit, I drilled a wire hole in the hand, inserted the hinge, and then I put the post in the arm. And bam! Functioning arm. Now I have to repeat this all to the other arm. When that was done, I had 2 flexible arms and a doll split cleanly in half at the waist, which is where the wooden ball comes in. If I strung the ball straight in with the waist cut as is, her proportions would look kind of off. So I took my Dremel and some rasp to shave down the inside of the torso. This helped the ball sit lower and keep her proportions looking more human. To make the wooden ball stringable, I drilled through it slowly because if you do it too quickly, you'll burn the wood. When that was done, I smoothed it down with some sanding bits for a clean finish. The ball needed to be strung into the body, so I heated up a needle to poke holes in the upper torso and the tushy. These holes are going to let a wire pass through, and those wires are going to hold the elastic. Even though I should have finished stringing the wooden ball into the torso first, I ended up attaching the arms instead. I don't know why I do things out of order like this. It doesn't occur to me in the moment. Each shoulder has a wire running through it, which I also forgot to film, and the bars connect to hooks that grab the elastic, keeping the arms nice and taut. I eventually swapped the elastic for tiny orthodontic rubber bands that you get with braces. But hey, look, arms! After that is when I put wire through the torso holes and sealed them with superglue. Stringing the body works just like stringing the arms. You know, holes, wires, hooks, and rubber bands keeping everything tight. But in this footage I used elastic instead, but we don't need to talk about that. And with that, we have a highly articulated doll. She's a little rough around the edges, but I like her. She's functional. She's what I wanted. You would think that that would be the end of this, since the whole point was just to add some joints, but I feel bad leaving her naked. So I grabbed some knit fabric, I laid it over her, and then I freehand cut a rectangle to make a tube dress. I initially tried hand stitching it at first because sewing knit on a machine can be a pain in the arse, but I eventually gave up and went to the machine anyway. The trick to sewing knits with a sewing machine is to use a zigzag stitch before you do a straight stitch, and that's going to keep it straight without warping it. And here she is, in her final form. Isn't she pretty? Making a dress for what was basically an experiment might seem like overkill, but I actually have plans for this doll. So there's this story I've wanted to tell about an encounter I had with an overly pushy makeup sales store saleswoman person lady, and I want to represent her as something more than just a drawing. So a Barbie doll in the place of a poor, unfortunate soul working at a superficial, overpriced cosmetics company just made sense in my mind. I did consider using a different Barbie doll, but that one was brand new with a unique body type, and I didn't want to destroy it if this experiment didn't work. Either way, I'm happy with how this doll turned out and more than satisfied with the results. The joint files will be on my Gumroad store, which will be linked in the description if you want to do any experimentation of your own. Otherwise, if you'd like to see more from me, my socials are going to be linked down below. I'm always drawing something, so you can check that out if you like. I'm typically more active on those anyway. I hope you had a blessed Rosh Hashanah, blessed Yom Kippur, blessed Sukkot, and Shalom, everyone. That voiceover was recorded on October 13th, and it is now November 8th. So, happy Indigenous Peoples Day, Diwali, and happy Halloween. Also, I got sick again at the end of October. Woo! Some of you may have noticed by now that my voice sounds pretty rough. It's not because I had COVID. It's actually because I work a scare acting job, and yesterday I was doing a lot of screaming and all that, just releasing all those primal screams I couldn't let out when I was a child. I promise I didn't gargle rocks or anything. My voice is just tired. Anyways, it's been a long few weeks, so I'm gonna go get plastered on fried food at a cheesecake factory.